Hey everybody, Ben here for the Bonehead podcast, and welcome to Print to Pitch. This is our series where we have a look at everything 3D printed in Blood Bowl, whether it's teams, star players, big guys, or stuff that has got no use for Blood Bowl, but is actually very useful for Blood Bowl, thinking like giants and big guys and accessories and stuff like that. Anyway, this time we are going to be looking at the new Torchlight team. So Torchlight has a Patreon, definitely has tribes on my mini factory, and they produce a team basically every month. We've looked at a bunch of their teams already, and this time we are going to be looking at their brand new Imperial Nobility team. Okay, so over on my mini factory, the team is up and running. Obviously, it's still this month, so if you're looking at this month in February, you can jump onto their tribes or Patreon. I think it's probably about £10 a month, and you get hold of this team. Otherwise, they normally go on there for about $20, $23 or something like that per team, which as far as STLs go is pretty good, and I'm sure you can get hold of one of these teams on Etsy. Anyway, they've produced an Imperial Nobility team, and we'll flick through some of the pictures as we go. The team has got basically nearly a full lineup. Okay, we've got 4 bodyguards, 2 blitzers, an ogre, 1 thrower, just the 1 thrower, although you can use the mirroring trick when it comes to 3D printing to at least have one facing the alternate way, and 6 linemen. So I think that's 14 players. You got coins and tokens as ever, and they are fully pre-supported, which is excellent. Now, full disclosure, these are on the printer right now. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a look at what's included. We'll have a look at the STLs, then we'll have a look at the prints once they're done. So as we flick through the different positionals, you've got a big chunky ogre, and I guess there's 2 call outs for Torchlight. Torchlight have a cartoony style to them. Their corn team is awesome. We used it for 7 Super Series, the Golden Skulls. Like, it's absolutely perfect. But they have exaggerated features, and they have exaggerated everything, basically. It is a little bit cartoony. And I think that works beautifully for Blood Bowl. You've got the Grimdark, you've got the absolutely perfectly sculpted stuff out there, but every creator has their own element to it. Every creator has their own kind of style, and Torchlight's gives this really fun, exaggerated version. So immediately we can see that with the ogre. You've got big, exaggerated, kind of like just meme-worthy face structure there. Big chin, big, structure, big lips. It's just an absolute monster, and massive arms. But the cool thing about Nobility is you've got the armor plates, you've got the flamboyant layered pants and pantaloons and things like that, which I think is really good and really fun. And there's a lot of toplessness in this team, which is going to give you a lot of skin area to play with, which is an interesting design concept. But actually, they've carried it out all the way through. Now, these are the blitzers, and I really like this design. So you've got the flared pants, you've got the armor, and you've got these you've got these like what is it, Marshawn Lynch kind of visors. So in the NFL they use visors to just like sunglasses strips basically, and the blitzers here have got them, which I think is a really cool element. Proportions wise, you can see they've got the big old pants, and it just works. You've got the feathers there, which are very much a part of the Imperial Nobility, and you've got the cool chest plates that identifies them as blitzers. So with the visors and the chest plates, the blitzers are actually going to stand out. Now, they are the superstars of this team, so you want them to do that. Then you've got a ton of linemen, and these guys are straight out of the Warhammer Old World. This is Empire. They've got the big stashes, the big beards. They've got all those elements to them. They line up thematically very well with the Games Workshop team. They differ massively in style and kind of the proportions of the team. And again, that's that kind of cartoony alternate, but I actually really like the way the team comes together. So you've got some linemen. I'm assuming that's a lineman on the left. As we go through, we'll see what that player is marked as. It's marked down in my file as we've got 1 thrower, 6 linemen, 2 blitzers, 4 bodyguards. So I'm assuming that guy is a lineman, but we'll double check. He's got a sash which makes him kind of stand out, and his feathers are slightly different, so not sure what he is. But anyway, this guy on the right is the thrower. He's pointing, he's throwing. If there is only 1 model per set of a thrower, then you kind of got the angle of, like I said, mirroring, so that you've got a different model pointing. You do want to normally, you will end up with 2 throwers on a nobility team. Once you've kind of maxed out on bodyguards and blitzers, you want that extra thrower for the 30 or something K difference from a lineman. You get +1 agility, +1 armor, and just +1 better in general. So you kind of do want 2 throwers, so having 1 thrower model here to mirror is okay. You got some tokens, and you've got more linemen. Again, you've got the classic Torchlight poses. They tend to use the same poses for a lot of their teams, and it works because it just works on the pitch. You don't need your linemen to be incredible, but they've got some bodyguards, and the bodyguards are very interesting sculpts. So they've mixed up. You've got a couple of female ones and a couple of male ones, which is cool. There's a lot of dynamic posing, like lots of running around, which is cool. But this is where the interesting kind of theme has coming in, of that toplessness for this team. So we've got a lot of that with their Viking team, with the Norse team, and now you've got the bodyguards, who are just big people, I guess is the way to say. Not entirely to my taste, but actually super fun. And, you know, if you're a fan of Bruce Bowl antics on the Blood Bowl community, you've got your Bruce Bowl team right here, which I actually really love the idea of. Otherwise, you've got the thematic armor, you've got the feathers, and you've got those pants, the trousers that just work perfectly with it. And that kind of puts together the team. So I've got them on the printer at the moment. We'll have a quick look at the STLs, and then we'll fast forward through time and look at the prints. Okay, so the first one we're going to look at is the 1 thrower. So let's zoom in on this lad here. Okay, this is your sculpt. Oh, he's standing on the ball. I didn't notice that in the pictures. Okay, that's quite a cool element. I do like it. Right, everything we've just seen in the pictures comes through on the STL. You got a good old tash there that really follows through. Decent posing, decent proportions. And the thing I really like about the Torchlight team is there's a lot of flowing textures, which means if you want to use contrast or the happy slapping paint method, or our paint method, the pass method, you're actually gonna have a really good time doing it. And I can tell you this from doing the Khorne team in about 7 minutes, it works nicely. Like, so I'm actually thinking I actually really quite like this team. Now, I love the Marienburg Minotaurs, my nobility team, but actually there is something just about this team that makes you want to take it, slap on some paint, and get them some bright colours, and just, I don't know, start telling a story with this team. Now, like I said, they are all pre-supported, so that's the thrower unsupported. Let's have a quick look at the thrower supported, and that's probably the only pre-support we'll look at, because we'll tell you whether the pre-supports work in about 45 minutes when my print has finished. Ooh, it's a flat print. That's interesting. Hopefully we won't get too much 3D printing rings. Okay, so light supports everywhere, probably 30-40mm diameter, almost looks auto-supported, but you know what, for the majority of the Torchlight supports, I've never really had any problems. Corner of the Khorne face masks was a bit of an issue, but once you identify it, it's not hard to fix. And I do recommend, once you learn the tricks, supporting your own gear, yeah, I think somebody's used auto-supports here, because you've got a weird little support kind of sticking out of that bit there. But ultimately it doesn't matter. The model has been supported to the point where it's going to come out nicely, and hopefully if those are light enough, it's going to be all right. So hey, it's going to be fine. Generally speaking, you can't notice light supports when a model's printed anyway, and you want a model to be done, and anything you lose in the way of support damage is nothing compared to what you get from from mold lines, from resin, or in fact Games Workshop plastics, and the gaps of having to put a model together again. If you've got a couple of divots or a couple of cracks because you've got a support, it's nothing. Right, here's our big lad, the big ogre boy. So loads of rounded big texture on him, which isn't great for contrast, but it is great for simple painting, and it's going to stand out really easily. But the cool thing about this, no matter what level of painting you are, if you get big open places like the metal, like his skin, maybe not the trousers so much, but it gives you an opportunity to try a couple of different things. You can try tattoos and scars, or checkers, or just grabbing some Games Workshop transfers and snapping them on them. It works really nicely. Or you leave them blank and bold, And you know what? It's going to look really, really, really cool. Now, size-wise, I'm interested to see how big this guy is. Let's chuck that thrower in and kind of compare them. Because, you know me, I like big guys, but actually I am open and accepting of the fact that a reasonably sized big guy is probably better for the game. Alright, so compared to the thrower, the ogre is head bigger, twice the mass. Yeah, like that. That's good. It is a simple sculpt. But I think that works for this team. You know, Torchlight, they've got a lot of charm in their cartoony simplicity, and I think they've executed well with the ogre. Right, let's grab the old blitzers, who are... Well, everybody's lying down flat here. Right, okay, we want to go and flip them up. Tap, tap, and tap, tap. There we go. Actually, we'll just rotate the camera. So let's swing this round and check out the blitzers. All right, feet positioning is always useful. They look like they're standing flat, or maybe... That's annoying, but that's fine. All right, I like this. This is kind of everything we just said. You've got decent texture on the armor, decent texture on the trousers. Overall, quite light on the detail, except for where it matters. So the faces, the moustaches, and that metal chest piece is just awesome, and very good texture on the feathers as well. So what's going to happen with these models is if you want to get into the picture really quickly, you're going to prime them, you're going to choose your base color, you're going to absolutely flood the base color, and then all you really have to do is pick out the bits that you want, and that sets a really good boundary for painting, because actually they can be, you can just spray them silver and chuck in a few things and then agrax them and they're good to go. Or you can use those flat areas and you can push yourself doing dags and checks and stripes. A team like this that's nobility, they benefit from stripes or quarters. Quarters and halves from a color point of view are actually a really good place to do it. And the kind of medium level of texture here gives you a nice area to do that, because they'll paint up nice and quickly and they'll look good. And then those flat areas give you the chance to just work on it as well. That's cool. I love the visors. I think that's a really interesting design choice. I don't quite understand how it works in the world of Blood Bowl. I mean, I guess Wizards did it, right? That's not massively unreasonable to say. Let's have a look at two of the bodyguards, and it looks like these bodyguards are the male ones. So let's zip this dude up to standing. Let's zip this dude up to standing as well. That'll do. Okay, right. So again, I mean, great face work. Torchlight really does get it right in the face. I know it's over exaggerated, but that again helps you with the painting. It means that when you're looking at them from like the 18 inches away, 2 feet away from the table, they're going to pop, and with a very easy bit of highlighting, or quite frankly just a bit of shading or contrast, the face is going to look good from a distance, and that's going to be really fun. These are really fun models, and I like that. And again, you've got plenty of open space for flesh work, for tattoos. It's a really interesting aesthetic, this one, because you've got all the refined fanciness, right, of the feathers and the pants and the beards, mixed with just kind of lager lout toplessness, which I think is a really fun dichotomy, and I would lean into that with like numbers painted on the chest. Like literally just, you know, water down a bit of coloured paint, grab a brush and just like put 6 on his belly or whatever, or just like a tattoo that says mum. It gives you a really fun canvas that you can add to over time, but you don't need to do straight away. So big fan of that. Okay, so those are the two male bodyguards. Let's have a look at the two female bodyguards, with probably one of the most interesting design choices. You've got the pants, you've got the shields, you've got the chest armor, which is just out of a 90s music video. Personally, I'm more of an 80s music video kind of fan, but that works. They've got some serious under chin, but again, it kind of sticks in with the aesthetic that they've gone with the team, which is just this weird mixture of nobility and loutishness. I love the peg leg. I don't know why there's a peg leg, but it's just great. Bodyguards are a solid player type, and even if they don't necessarily, they don't have a lot of character. They're just hardy folk. They are brutes. They are there to punch and be punched, and they do a really good job of it. So, well, I think that's about right. Let's grab 3 linemen, and we'll have a look at those sculpts really quickly, because they're all quite similar, which again is fine when it comes to linemen, because they are just linemen. And unlike other teams, these linemen, the linemen on nobility teams, they're not meant to be characters, but you cannot help but celebrate the moustaches. and the faces on these guys. This is wicked. Like, they're going to stand on the line, they're going to fend, they're going to struggle with armor 8+, they're going to suck with edge 4+, but they are going to do a great job. You've got good feathers, good tashes, and armor and things that just absolutely carry through with the rest of the team. So what we are going to do is just investigate the other 6 players and see if we can find that second thrower sculpt. I don't think I've printed every model. I think I just printed a couple of each. Alright, it's this guy here on the right-hand side, and this guy here on the right-hand side is, drumroll please, lineman number 6, please. Which is cool. I mean, he's got a sash. You could, I guess, use him as a second backup thrower. I am personally inclined to... If you do that, you've got to be really careful. When it comes to nobility, because they are aesthetically so strong, the bodyguards are going to stand out here, which is excellent. The blitzers are going to stand out here with the chest pieces and the visors. That's excellent too. The thrower pointing, yeah, makes a lot of sense. He's standing on a ball, which is good. If you use that other guy with the sash as another thrower, you're going to have to do something with the colours of the sash to make him really pop. But I would just recommend using this thrower model. I know it's not ideal, and it's definitely a ding on the team. But use the X mirror function, and there you go. It's even with the pre-supported version, it'll work, and you end up with a thrower facing 2 different directions. It's absolutely not perfect, but I mean, it's definitely good enough. And you end up with 2 guys. Oh wow, absolutely nobility fusion here. Here we go, fusion. That's definitely an option, and that's all right. So those are the STLs. I'm going to stop, take a quick break, and then we're going to have a look at the physical prints. Let's have a look at some of the prints. So these guys, I used the pre-supported versions 100% on Saturn 2, I think, is with these ones. And I mean, you kind of 0.3 layer height or whatever, you get the same kind of detail out of most printers because it's more about the print and the prep than it is really the printer these days. So let's see what we got. So first things first, we're going to start with the bodyguards. I've got 3 of them here. I think I broke one of them on the pre-supports. I think the supports kind of ripped off the feathers and stuff. I guess that's the first thing to point out here. The pre-supports are... I think this guy might actually supposed to have feathers. He is actually supposed to have feathers. Yes, so pre-supports are very good. They will print your models, but man, you got to be super careful when taking off because of those flipping feathers. So this guy ripped off the feathers on the top, and I was really careful. But the feathers, because they're so intricate, there was a ton of supports on them, which means it's very difficult to kind of just tear it off. And I think as we go through these models, you'll see quite a few feather damage incidents. However, I mean, everything we said when we looked at the STLs is still true. They're great fun sculpts. They got nice open spaces, so actually it works nicely. The most important thing that we do though is the size comparison. So I've grabbed out of the storage of the cupboard a few Marienburg Minotaurs players. So this is a bodyguard, so we'll take the lineman here. We'll use the lineman, so you're going to see just how poorly these teams were painted, and I do apologise. Right, so bodyguard, 100% scale from Torchlight versus lineman from the Games Workshop Nobility team. He is tall, right? He is tall. Let's grab a blitzer, and actually you can see that this guy is still tall. He's actually quite a big lad. I'm going to grab a Black Orc now, because the Black Orc tends to be the kind of, these days, the ubiquitous strength 4 piece. So he is as tall as a Black Orc. He is not as massive as a Black Orc. He is just simply a bit bigger than a human. And I think I'm fine with that. I mean, you get a lot of fun detail with these guys, and I really like them. I actually think these can form a really fun part of some nobility teams, or even some OWA teams, like, because you got the kind of flared pantaloons, it just works nicely. Okay, so that's the bodyguards, and they're all kind of a similar size, so a bit bigger than a human lineman. And then you get the ogre. Now the ogre has got massive hands, massive feet, and massively untidied up. That's my fault, because I'm just kind of speed printing these guys. But I mean, it's a lovely print. It's got some character, and it's just fun. Like, this whole team, the kind of vibe you're getting is that it is just fun. And again, I think that's fine. Cool punch blade, decent sizing. Do I have an ogre? I don't have an ogre. I don't have an ogre. So we're just going to grab the strength 3 comparison. So lineman versus ogre. The ogre is massive compared to him versus a black orc. The ogre is, let's put him base to base there. It's base to base, and let's see if the autofocus will catch back up with what we're doing. Thank you very much. Let's tick that to manual. Tap, tap. He's big. He's bigger than a black orc. Not by a massive amount. So your ogre, you might want to tap him up maybe to 110% there. I think is probably about right. He's not bad. He'll fit on a 32, but scale-wise compared to the rest of the team, he's not... Well, that's not fair, actually. Scale-wise, compared to the blockers, the bodyguards, he's not massively bigger. So I would definitely recommend upscaling the ogre, because that's big guys, right? Big guys, you want to be big guys. You definitely want them to be bigger than strength 4 guys. Right, what should we look at next? Let's look at the thrower. Okay, cool sculpt. Print came out really nicely. Very happy with the overall finish of the model, which is... lovely. Let's check the scale, and this is where the scaling starts to go a bit squiffy with this team. He's actually taller, he just feels a lot smaller. It's really quite entertaining. Now, as for your scale, compared to a human nobility guy, he's probably not far off. He just has a lot less mass to him. In fact, if you grab a strength 4 player like a black orc and compare him, he looks pretty tiny. And even compared to a goblin, there's always a goblin on my desk somewhere, Grot Brady, yeah, alright, he looks strength 3. He passes the goblin test, so that's good enough. But I tell you what, when I printed off these linemen and took them off the plate, they looked they looked tiny and feeble on the plate. So I was a bit worried about the lineman scaling. So this is going to be quite interesting. They are slighter. They are a lot slighter than the Games Workshop ones. So let's grab one of these dudes and compare it to a Games Workshop nobility lineman. He's got a thrower head, I think, and a thrower hand. Still an Imperial Nobility lineman. So actually, the lineman is a lot smaller than a Games Workshop nobility dude. And that's true of all of them. I actually thought that they were quite small, to the point where I feel like the goblin is not massive amount different, and he definitely is just, they're just very slight. And all of them kind of came out, and I was just looking at them and I was like, well, they're technically the same height, they don't have the same bulk. And that's the Blitzer. So the Blitzer, again, you want your Blitzers to be some of the coolest models, right? Where's the other Blitzer? These are the 2 Blitzers for the team, and oh, I think this one might be one I've scaled up now, actually. Is that right? Is that right? That's a lineman. Oh, I don't know. I don't know. Your Blitzer here is a bit bigger than your lineman. Oh, these are both Blitzers. Okay, so this Blitzer is bigger. Might have been one of the ones I scaled up. But your lineman there, compared to a human nobility lineman, I think they are slighter. So, naturally, what I did was I whacked them up to 110% scale because I want my models to be big enough to actually see. And 110%, the guy is a lot taller than the crouching lineman. When you take the Blitzer, he's a lot taller. It's a really tough one. He is bigger than a nobility lineman, but I think maybe 105% would have been right. It's just... he was very slight as a thrower at 100%. Maybe 110% there is too big. Maybe 105 would bulk him up. He'll be a little bit taller than the Games Workshop guy, but overall probably line up nicely. And let's grab the other ones that scaled up. So I scaled up one of the Blitzers because the Blitzer, like I said, I mean, they're the star of the team, you know, and you need them to be big. You need them to be good. And 110%, I actually think the Blitzer is bang on where you want him to be. 110% versus the Bodyguard, the Blitzer is actually around about the same scale. If you look at the feet, the Blitzer feet versus the Bodyguard feet, 110% for the Blitzer, 100% for the Bodyguard. They line up nicely. So the Blitzer 110%, the thrower probably needs to be 105%. I printed off a couple of linemen at 110 as well because I just needed them to match up, just because I wanted to find out. And I actually think 110% for the linemen is where you want them to be as well. It kind of lines up from a scale point of view with the rest of the team. They're going to be a little bit bigger than the Games Workshop crouching dude, but when you line up this lineman to the Games Workshop Blitzer, he's almost the same height, and the Blitzer's kind of crouching. That's where I think you want to be with your lineman. And this guy here as well, he's doing the whole crouching pose. And I think that's probably about right. So in summary, 110% for your blitzers, 105% for your thrower, 110% for your lineman, bodyguards are fine, and probably about 110% for your ogre. Now that is, I actually don't think the ogre model is a, well, let's put it this way, it's blended in with the rest of the models on the team because he's about the same size as the bodyguards, and I think you need him to be bigger than the bodyguards, and he's got more mass, sure, but he looks more like a strength 4 piece. 110% is going to make him a chunky boy. So 110% for the ogre. Bodyguards are fine. 110% for everything else. The thrower, 110, 105% is probably where you want him to be. Now, I printed this guy at 110% with just using the pre-supports that's in there. It's a really kind of, it's something I'll do for these videos just to test out whether the pre-supports will hold. And he's good to go. And actually, you know what? 110%. 110% is fine. If he's a little bit taller, do you know what? It's fine. Compared to the bodyguard, he's smaller. 110% on everything except the bodyguards, and you'll get a really good team. And there you have it, the Torchlight Nobility team. I like these models. I think they're good. They are fun models. So they are, they're not grimdark. They are characterful and cartoony, and they're going to take bold paint schemes beautifully. And actually, I'm really excited about that because Blood Bowl, you know, it takes all comers. As simple, as complex, as grimdark, as bright and colourful, and as fun as you like. And this team gives you a really great option. You've got the Games Workshop Nobility team, which is pretty much a really lovely team. It takes paint really well. Now you've got a cool option of a complete team that's going to replace it. So for the price of their Patreon or their My Mini Factory Tribe, you're going to get some great options. They're not going to mix well with Games Workshop models, but they are going to mix beautifully with the Torchlight models themselves. And Torchlight have got a pretty big back catalogue now. And that's why I kind of flagged up an OWA team, is because they got a dwarf team, right? And actually you can mix these guys in with your dwarf team, and you've got basically, yeah, you've got your OWA team if you want to do that. And that's what we kind of starting to see with these Patreons and these tribes. The bigger the back catalogue, the more kind of interconnection they can play, and you can do a bit of picking and choosing. But if you wanted to go grab this on Etsy or whatever, I think you'd be really happy with it. If you like the style, the female blockers with their Madonna cones are probably the only thing I'm a bit like, I don't know if I like that as much. But actually, it's pretty cool. It's well executed, it's good fun, and I like that a lot. Anyway, let me know what you think of this team in the comments, because I am genuinely intrigued. I want to paint them, and that's a really good thing. Anyway, I'm going to wrap up. Thank you very much for watching. We'll be back soon with more Blood Bowl content. Happy printing. Thanks very much for watching. We really appreciate your support. If you want to support the channel even further, please like and subscribe. It really does help us out. Or come join us on YouTube Members or in Patreon, where you can get exclusive access to some content, some loot, early access to basically everything we do, as well as regular competitions. Or you can pick up some Bonehead Podcast loot either on our website at boneheadpodcast.com. We've got the Dungeon Bowl things, we've got tokens and stuff like that, or on our Spreadshirt site as well. Everything you do just helps us make more content and hopefully do it of better quality. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Happy blocking.